My dad should have been a comic. He has so many great stories, and he's such a funny guy. He's been arrested on suspicion of terrorism before. Oh, that's a great story.
How are you? We're coming to the end of this episode, and you drop gingerly that your dad was arrested on suspicion of terrorism.
Yeah, in Rome in the 80s.
What is happening right now?
The real thing of it is if we have kids, their last name would be Condon Duckett, which is just a middle school entryway into condom fuck it.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Just devastating.
You also have to think about, okay, so here's really the amazing thing. If you have a daughter and you name her Amelia Beth, her initials could be ABCD, and that is the greatest.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Yeah, you gotta. There's no better reason to name her that. I don't know if maybe Amelia is not a super hip name, but just for ABCD.
Yeah, if it's a boy, Albert Byron.
Yeah, of course, and that works.
Yeah.
To me, Albert and Byron sound like they work together.
Yeah.
So I'm in for it.
Yeah, I had never put that together. That's so funny.
Listen, I want you to take it home and tell everybody you know.
Yeah, mine's MRD. So just like no one called me
Mr. D.
No one called me Mr. D.
Oh, okay. As soon as I said it, you're like, no one did that.
No one did that. You'd think, but no one did. My brother's is SMD. So people like, that's sick.
Oh, so they liked it.
Yeah, everyone was like, that's so awesome. Your initials are SMD.
Before we keep going, though, I do want to talk about the tea that we're drinking for everyone listening at home, because our people are steep with us at home. This is another Paru tea. So Paru is from La Jolla. Shout out to everyone in La Jolla.
Shout out Tim and Cindy.
Yeah. Tim and Cindy.
That's my girlfriend's parents.
Tim and Cindy, we love you.
They just moved into a wonderful abode in La Jolla. It's very nice. It's their dream home.
Tim and Cindy, you're welcome here anytime. And you should also go to Paru Tea. This is Pomelo Wild. This is a green tea with pomelo flowers. It's fantastic. We brewed this at 175 for between 2 and 3 minutes. Don't do more than that. It'll get pretty bitter.
Yeah, no bitterness here. This is a delight.
Are you a big tea drinker?
I'm always down for a tea. I don't drink as much as I would like.
Are you more of a coffee guy, or are you one of those crazy unicorns that doesn't need caffeine?
I used to not need caffeine, and then I turned 24. And it just
24 was the breaking point.
Yeah, I just crashed because I was in the workforce full time for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And just could not handle getting up at 6:30, going to work and that whole thing. So I started with really sweet coffee.
Okay.
But tea's always been in the household. My mom is an adamant black tea, Irish tea person.
Black Irish tea, like Builder's tea.
Yeah. She'll yell at me if there's not a box of Bailey's tea in my
Interesting.
apartment. She'll open the cupboards to look to see if it's in there.
That's so specific. Bailey's black tea. Is your mother? Does she have Irish roots?
So yeah, my great grandfather fled Ireland in the 1920s during the Civil War. Because he was cousins with Michael Collins, who was the leader of the Irish Revolution. So my great-grandfather fought in the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, to liberate the country. And for those who don't know, and I'm a history major, so I have to know these things beyond just my family history. So basically what happened is in 1916, the Irish revolted against Great Britain to liberate the island. World War I conveniently happened at the same time.
Classic.
And so the British were like, we can't deal with you right now. We've got too much shit going on. So this is what we'll do. We'll cut a deal. We'll give you most of the island, but we're going to keep 6 counties as part of as the United Kingdom. And so that's what created what is known as the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So within the revolutionaries, there were 2 groups, one who wanted to take the deal and those who didn't. So Michael Collins took the deal, and that's what started the Irish Civil War. was the fracturing of the Irish Republican Army over this agreement. So Michael Collins was assassinated in the Irish countryside, and like basically a reverse drive-by where they were driving and there were people on the hills and they just shot him and killed him.
Or we could actually
Um,
argue that's the original drive-by. What
yeah,
we have is a
right.
reverse.
So
yeah.
it's the first. That's how they used to do it. You waited for you to actually drive by, and
Yeah,
then they did
Tupac was killed in a reverse drive-by. That's really the truth.
And we're still looking for Michael Collins' killer, but we've
Not
talked about-
Tupac's anymore.
Not Tupac.
Yeah, yeah.
So it might be the same guy. Who knows? No, yeah. So in the midst of that, my great grandfather fled Ireland because he did not want to die.
This
So-
is the craziest story.
Yeah.
Like because I've known you for a while. I have no clue. Do you
I
talk
spent-
about this on stage?
I don't. I spend so much time talking about how I'm half black, but the Irish side of my family is so interesting. My mom's like, "Why do you never talk about it?" I'm like, "I don't know how to make war." They made a Liam Neeson movie about about Michael Collins. We're good.
But didn't they also make what was it? 2 years ago, they made the movie Belfast, which is also about the
Yeah.
Irish Revolution.
Yeah, there's no shortage of it out there. I don't need to be.
Yeah, but there's no
Bringing it at the
stand-up
front.
who's out there
Yeah.
being like, so here's a funny bit.
You guys ever hear of guerrilla warfare? One of my relatives basically invented it.
I'm telling you, and listen, I love all your material about being half black, half white. I think it's amazing. But what a nice compliment to it
Sure.
when you're saying like, hey, this is one part of me. You know what
Yeah.
else is kind of crazy? You probably
Yeah.
didn't know this.
So yeah, my family is spilled the blood of many a British.
I don't know if I'd
person.
lead with that.
Yeah.
Anyone here British? Anyone British?
Yeah. Hey, guess what? Guess what I did?
Yeah, no.
No, not at all. But yeah, no. So like, when my mom was a kid, she found a doll in her grandma's house, and it had all these writings on it. She was like, "What is this doll?" And so what it was the Irish Republican Army used to transcribe messages in Gaelic on like kid dolls and just have kids walk with the doll to whoever they needed to communicate to, and give the doll to that person, because the British Army says, "Oh, this is some kid walking around, whatever," and it would be like coordinates to like, this is where this guy that we're gonna kill is gonna be. Meet me there, and we'll do the job.
Okay, this is like, how have you not written this into a screenplay?
Because I don't know. I guess I should really get on it. But yeah, I in college I did a pretty deep paper on it for a class that was like, it was like a history class where they wanted you to try and like intertwine family history, and was like, "Do I have a paper for you?"
Yeah. Which side do you want to know about?
Yeah, it's like, I can go any direction you want, buddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something that I should write about.
Do you think that you studied history because you have such an interesting one, that you were like, maybe history in general is as interesting as what I have?
I was just good at it.
You were good at it.
Yeah. It was my best subject in like, middle school and high school, and then
Yeah.
I like writing. So that's what most of it is. I'm not the biggest fan of the reading aspect of it, but
No.
a good history class is just, here's the general landscape of what we're talking about, form an opinion about it, and write about it. And I'm like, I like having opinions.
Yeah. Well, I was about to ask, like, what makes one good at history, but I suppose that's the answer.
Yeah, it's about moving past the binary of a question of like, was the American Revolution good or bad? And it's, because that's what they kind of teach you in class, was like, they kind of present two sides of an argument, and then it's like, pick the side. And a good history class and a good history teacher will present information and not tell you, okay, so now what did you think, this or this? It's whatever your opinion is about this, go ahead and write about it. And so I was lucky that I had teachers that did that in high school and especially in college, because I went to UC Santa Barbara, which is like a research university.
Yeah.
So
also
it's like,
a beautiful university.
I tell people all the time, it's like, if you have kids who are like of that age where they're going to start looking at schools, like, yeah, if you get into UCLA, obviously, like, name brand, great.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to UCLA, don't go to Berkeley. Actually, I find that Berkeley's just like not a fun town. But
Santa
yeah,
Barbara's sick.
Santa Barbara's amazing. Yeah, and like it's not like it's a party school and you get fucked up. It's like, yes, that's there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like just you're a stone. You can literally throw a football from some of the residence halls to the beach. It's beautiful. It's a great school, and yeah, there's fun stuff out there if you want it. And you could just go down to downtown Santa Barbara and like shop and stuff. It's an incredible place to go to school.
Well, the interesting thing is that when you were like, yeah, if you get into UCLA, go there. Not to bring up old wounds, but didn't you also go to UCLA for a second?
I was at UCLA for a semester for law school. Yeah,
One semester.
one semester.
And then you objected. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I had to do it.
I
had to do
objected.
it.
I Johnny Cochraned my way out of there.
Well, that's an impressive feat.
Yeah, it was not a good decision.
Would you say like the program didn't fit, so you must have quit? Is that what you'd say?
The program didn't have a
Yeah.
yeah.
Am I doing too many of these? I can. I need to pull back.
No, those are good.
What was it? So because here's the thing: the way that I know you is as a comedian who also, as I mentioned off mic, you and I have a boatload of similar interests. So I was like, yeah. I obviously really like you. That shouldn't be a surprise to you. But I don't know you as a history buff who wanted to be a lawyer. That is where I lose the plot on you.
Well, it's not so much that I was a history buff who wanted to be a lawyer. I was a person who took history classes whose parents wanted him to go to law school.
Okay, got it. Asked and answered.
Yeah.
I mean, did you always? The interesting thing about your particular background and upbringing and all these things is like, I feel like it could have pushed you in thousands of different directions.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like having, from what we've even talked about, like, your mother has an incredible history. I've heard a little bit about your father on stage, really interesting history.
Mm-hmm.
You could have gone every direction.
Yeah.
Law school seems like a weird, like, we don't know where you should go. Try law school.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was like people were like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, in middle school or high school, whatever. I'm like, I don't know.
I'm shocked in middle school, because if I recall correctly, and I'm not trying to tell any of your jokes on this podcast, you do a funny joke, I think, about like traveling on a basketball team.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I would have thought in middle school, if I were, remotely good, I would have wanted to just be in the NBA.
So I knew that I wasn't going to be good enough to play in the NBA.
You knew it like 12?
Well, because I was on all these teams where it was like, a lot of my travel teams were like top 50 in the country. And playing
holy crap
top as like the number 47 school, once you get to like number 25, you're losing by 20.
Oh, it's that bad.
You're getting annihilated by kids,
by the Ball brothers.
Yeah, exactly. So I played when I was living in Pittsburgh. I played in the same AAU system as TJ McConnell, who, funny enough, wasn't the guy. Nobody thought he was the guy who was going to go pro. There were like 3 dudes in his grade that people.
He was
were
great.
Like, and so so he went to Duquesne, and then he transferred to Arizona and just like worked his ass off. And yeah, he's a phenomenal player. And that was the thing, is that he had a better work ethic than everybody, regardless of what people thought about his talent. Everyone was like, yeah, that kid works his ass off.
Were you ever in a one-on-one position with him?
Yeah. No, we had practices. He, I wouldn't say annihilated me every time,
but like smoked you decently.
But it was like a solid, like, okay, this guy's like probably, because he shouldn't have been at Duquesne. He should have been at Arizona from jump. It's just that Pittsburgh is not like the biggest basketball city. So
it isn't. I'm shocked.
Well, no NBA
is Pittsburgh
team.
The biggest anything city?
Pittsburgh is the biggest pierogi city.
Well, so wait. So going back to it, so you at 12 you're not going to go in the NBA.
Yeah. So I wanted to play D1 basketball. I was like, I think I'm good enough to do that.
That's a great goal.
So I'll do that and like get a degree, and then I guess go to law school after that. And like maybe be a sports agent or something, kind of. I didn't
see, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I didn't have like the complete vision of it. That entire time I was obsessed with comedy. I watched Comedy Central probably 4 hours a day from like ages like 10 through high school.
Who was the influence? Was it mom, dad, a sibling?
Both of my parents are very funny in their own way.
Okay. When your mom's not drinking all that tea.
Yeah, when my mom is not in the bathroom peeing from all the tea that she's
Exactly.
drank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in a funny household.
Okay.
People were constantly joking and like taking shots at each other and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was a very like, what are you looking? My dad all the time like, what are you looking at? You light skinned motherfucker. I'm like, that's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, you did this.
You married the white woman.
Yeah.
Um,
That is so funny.
yeah. It's like, and it's like also my dad is not Hakeem Olajuwon. Like he's not.
I mean, that sounds like a dream.
Mm.
So few
Yeah.
people are going to get that joke, but the
Yeah.
ones that do are going to really appreciate it.
Yeah, it'll shake them up.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, love. Wait, okay. So you grew up in a funny household, and so this
Yeah.
whole time, even as you're like studying history, you're like, I feel like I could do comedy.
Yeah, I had always wanted to do it, and like you don't really know how to start, and it was always specifically stand up. It was always specifically I want to do stand up comedy. And
Interesting.
yeah, just had like no clue like how do people get started with this thing. Living in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, you don't hear about like there's a comedy club inside of the city where people like go and do it.
No.
Yeah, you think it's this unattainable thing on TV or in LA or New York or whatever. But yeah, so I was got to college. I started doing stand up halfway into my freshman year. So technically I started 10 years ago.
It's interesting. I've not found, because I've gone to Santa Barbara to do stand up quite a few times, and it's not a huge burgeoning scene up there.
No, so there was one guy who had like an operation, and he had like 6 shows a week going on that were like decently populated, and then on campus we had a club which is still running, which I think might be like the largest, at this point the longest running entertainment performance arts club on campus, called Laughology, which was, we just ran a weekly stand-up show. And the nice thing about being in Santa Barbara and 2 hours away from LA, and with a student board that has more money than they know what to do with, we could pay people, hey, do you want to make, like, we'll pay you $600 to drive up to LA to just do 45 minutes of stand-up, and you can make a weekend vacation out of that, or you can just drive up, do it, and drive back down. And we had so many people, so many comics. Like I was doing shows opening for like Maz Jobrani when I was like 4 months into stand up.
That's terrifying.
And like I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And then you get out into the road like, oh, this shit is fucking hard to like get to. It's like it was such a luxury, because it was like also like, you're doing stand up for like 100 stoned college kids. It's like the easiest crowd to kill in front of.
And you're still nervous. You're like, I'm going to botch the crap out of
I
this.
was nervous until like the first time I ever did like that show, and it was like, it felt like, oh, this is a real show that I'm doing. The host forgot my name, and then I was like, oh, none of this matters. Nobody else cares. Why should I?
I mean, that's honestly, it's funny because off mic, you and I were talking about San Diego, and the worst time I've ever been introed was in San Diego, where the host gets up and she's like, I love this next comic. He is one of my favorite comics in the world. I always look forward when he comes down. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause for, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name. It's Jason.
Oh no.
And I'm just like, you just invalidated everything you said.
Yeah, this guy is great. He's a great friend.
Yeah, I look forward to him every time. Now, what is his name again?
I have a copy of his birth certificate in my car. What was
I know his social security number is 129. But I don't I don't remember his own name.
That's bad intros, man. They either set you up really well or they set you up horribly.
Because you can riff on a bad intro.
Yeah, exactly. You can, but sometimes it's so bad where you're just like, oh,
how did we get here?
Yeah, it's like you literally should have just said, fuck this guy, Matt Duckett. That would be better than, so this guy, I think he said he's from, But so it started when I was in college, and then in my, I was originally going to go to University of San Diego for law school. They gave me a fat scholarship, and I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to do this, but if I'm basically going for free, then I'll like suffer through it.
Suffer through San Diego with great tacos.
Yeah. Oh my God, what a terrible
and lovely
place.
Beaches, yeah.
Funny enough, during orientation, because like on my personal essay, I said like I did stand up. They made me do stand up in front of the entire class.
I'm sorry, how big is that class there?
I want to say it was probably, I think maybe 150 people.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
out.
So they had me do it. Not only did they have me do it in front of everybody, they had me do it the last day of orientation, right before we took a practice exam, because it was all like, this is what law school like looks like. And so the last day was like, this is what a law school exam is going to look like when you take it at the end of the semester. And so yeah, they were like, so we got some. They told me about this beforehand. It's not like it like went up cold. They're like,
Okay.
hey, do you want to do some stand up before the thing tomorrow? And I was like, sure.
Tomorrow. So it was only one day.
Yeah, it was only one day. So it was like, can you do like 5 minutes before the test so that like, everyone's like not nervous about this imaginary test?
You're like, well, what about me? I have to take this imaginary test.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm also taking the test. Can I get like the first 4 answers? If
yeah, can I get some extra credit here?
Yeah,
like, what am I doing?
Jesus Christ. But I did do it, and like horn toot, I fucking crushed.
Are you serious?
I crushed so hard to the point that when I went to my advisor at the start of the next semester to tell her I'm dropping out, she went, "Yeah, you're really funny." She was like, "You're good at this."
And you look at her, you go, sustained.
Yeah, exactly. No objections here. Motion to dismiss Matt from law school.
Yeah. Summary judgment. I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to tell you this is actually completely a legal puns podcast.
Yeah,
That's all we do.
Welcome. Yeah.
We bring people that have a little bit of legal history and we just dive in.
Yeah, if you want a B+ knowledge of torts, I've got you covered.
But yeah, that's so nuts. So you went in, you're like, I'm out, and was she just like, you're funny. You should.
Yeah, I'm forgetting her name, but
it's not Tim and Cindy. I know that.
It's not Tim and Cindy. Nor Dwayne or Christine.
No, are those your parents?
Those are my parents. Yeah.
I was like, did we talk about Dwayne and Christine?
No.
Christine, great taste in tea. But anyway, so you don't. But you go in, and she's just like, yeah. Did your parents also go? Yeah, it's fine.
So my mom was like, yeah, like do your thing, dog. My dad wasn't happy about it. Good for me. My parents got a divorce right as that was happening. So they were
got a little
focused,
preoccupied.
Yeah, they were focused on other things. They had their own court cases happening.
Yeah, your
their
dad
own
was
legal
like,
filings.
Matt, I'm like, I would really love for you to reconsider. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, how about you reconsider your marriage? She's like,
Yeah.
what? I got to go back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And once I got a job and like, oh, you can sustain yourself. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
what are your parents going to say, really? But yeah, my dad was not psyched about it when I first dropped out.
Here's a question, and by the way, if this gets too personal, we do not have to go here at all. So when parents get divorced, whether you're old or young, it becomes part of your story. So
Yes.
and as a stand-up, you want to be able to tell things about your story. Is that a topic though where you have to, or you feel obligated? Not that you have to, but that you feel obligated to go back to your parents and be like, I'm going to start talking about this on stage, and you're like, that's what it is.
No, I talk about it on stage. I don't clear anything with them. There's like certain parts where I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna like talk about like my parents like personal lives.
No, I mean, don't go
But,
in
like-
there and be like, so they got into a fight once about.
Yeah,
Don't do
exactly.
that.
Yeah, no, but I talk about it. I from the vantage point of like, what it's like when you're an adult in your parents' divorce.
It's just so different.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's way too personal. It's a war of attrition, really, because I feel like when you're a kid, it's like, your parents still want you to like love them.
Yeah.
For as an adult, they do not care what you think about them as long as you just hate the other one more. So it's just like, yeah, I might have done this, but hey, you need to know what you're like. Yeah.
That is so funny. I have a friend who will go unnamed, and when we were growing up, his parents were both very accomplished in their fields and very busy people, and I was over there all the time, but they were so busy that they weren't often there. And to make a long story short, we graduated high school. I'm sure that I'm exaggerating this timeline, but I think it was within like a month of us graduating high school that they told my friend we're getting a divorce. And my friend who is incredibly smart was like, I'm guessing this didn't just start in the past month.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they were like, no, we decided this years ago, but we were going to wait until you
hold out
graduated
until
high
the kids
school.
leave. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know that I would be capable of that.
Yeah, that's a lot of commitment. And like for my parents, it wasn't like, oh, we're holding on until like the kids like graduate high school or college and have their lives together. It's kind of the opposite. I left and they're like, shit, that was kind of our glue guy.
He was the Corey Maggette of this household, and we just don't have him.
Yeah, it was. That was basically this guy was the Brian Cardinal, just doing all the dirty work that no one wanted to do.
Also, a great reference. That is so crazy. I also don't even remember how I learned that you like basketball, but I know that that was a very quick.
Well, because I could talk about it so much on stage.
You know what's interesting? I have heard you talk more about baseball on stage than you've talked about basketball.
I mean, those are my two. Right?
I don't watch baseball, so no, all those jokes go right over my head.
Well, they go over most people's head, honestly.
I don't want to interrupt our conversation, but I want to get to our first segment.
Yeah,
Are you
absolutely.
ready for the Newly Friend game?
Yes, let's do it.
So this is like the Newlywed Game, but we're friends. Unless I haven't checked every state, but I don't think we're married.
Don't go to Alaska.
Okay, got it. Nope, that makes sense. And I'm going to be honest, that's the one state I didn't check. So that's on me. That's me. I ask you a question. You write down your answer. I'm going to write down what I think it is, and we're going to see if they match. And then similarly, we will do a question for me. Now, there are like 80 topics I could touch on with you because I feel like we have boatloads of similar interests.
Yes.
But I have to go with the topic, which you're one of the only people I can talk to about, which is sneakers.
Sweet.
So my question for you is going to be, and don't tell me your answer, write it down.
Okay.
What is your favorite sneaker silhouette across brands, across lines? What is your favorite silhouette?
Favorite silhouette all time.
Yes. Now, don't tell me. Write it down.
Oh man, that's tough. Okay, sorry, I'm like a terrible handwriter, so I'm gonna erase this and do it one more time.
I was gonna say, what is going on over there?
Yeah, no. See, I'd actually like I know how to hold a pen properly, but I don't. I do like a 5-fingered weird.
You know what? Someone I went to school with used to do that. Someone else I went to school with used to hold it like this.
Yeah, I'm left-handed.
I'm so sorry.
That's yeah. If I was born 40 years earlier, biracial and left-handed, I would have been thrown in a cell.
We haven't even touched on anything about being biracial. We'll jump into that soon.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
aren't you excited?
Yes.
All right, flip your board on 3. 1, 2, 3. Flip. Oh no, I wasn't even close.
So the Jordan 1.
That's what I wrote. Jordan 1.
If we're going greatest of all time, I would put that, and then very close behind it would have been the Air Force 1. The LeBron 7 is my favorite sneaker of all time because it's the sneaker I played in high school.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. That's a really good answer. I also put down as a parentheses, no credit given on the Jordan 11. Is that up there for you?
That would be number 3. Yeah, because you've seen me in the Bread 11s a bunch.
Sure, but I also think about like with you. I don't think I've seen you wear 3s, but I think I've seen you wear 5s and maybe 4s.
I have 5s. I have 4s.
Yeah.
What was the other one you said?
Well, I had the 11s.
Oh, 3. So I got the 3. You said 3s. I got white cement 3s when they came out this year.
Sure.
That was my first pair of 3s. Very uncomfortable shoe.
You think a 3 is uncomfortable?
Yeah, I don't like. I just don't think there's enough in the sole. I like a little bit of padding. And see, people think 4s are really uncomfortable, but I have really narrow feet, so my pinky toe doesn't hit the outside of the toe box like it does for other people.
So you actually work well with the Jordan 1, which is incredibly narrow.
Yeah. So the narrower the shoe, the better it is for me. It's like because I have to go like a half size or full size down for a lot of New Balances because them boys wide.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll do the same question for me.
Okay, sweet.
What is my favorite silhouette? Because I am also between a couple.
Shaqnosis.
Yeah, that's it. The foam posits are my favorite.
I don't think I have it, but I'm just gonna go with this.
I think this is right. Okay, ready? Flip your board on 3.
Yes,
1, 2, 3.
Oh, that was gonna be the second.
Okay.
That was like my third guess. Was the yeah.
So Matt put the Air Max 1. I put the SB Low. Is my favorite.
Because that's what I was saying was like. I see you in SB Lows all the time.
I know.
But I'm like, fuck. Yeah, I should have just went with what I see you in. I overthought it.
No, well, so I also put the 3 that I put at the bottom are Continental 80s, which I love. That's an Adidas silhouette. The New Balance 991s, and just shell toes. Yeah. I think shell toes are an iconic sneaker.
It's hard to beat a shell toe. Yeah, and that's what I like about. I think, and this is where our sneaker fandom intersects too. Is that we kind of go across the board. Like I'm in a pair of Saucony Shadow 5000s right now.
I loved them as soon as you walked in the door.
Yeah, these are the St. Barths. Yeah,
they're a phenomenal sneaker.
Awesome shoe. Love taking these on like tropical vacations.
Oh yeah,
you know, it just fits the vibe, right? But yeah, you have a diversity of sneaker fandoms. You're not like a Nike loyalist or what have you.
I do think I own the most.
Everybody does, just because it's by virtue, and then the umbrella of like, okay, well, technically Jordan's part of the Nike brand, so that also can
Yeah.
add to the number. But yeah, we all own mostly Nikes,
I will say that my favorite sneaker of the past 5 years was my Donald Glover Adidas Continental 80 collab.
Cool. Yeah, that's a great shoe.
You cannot find that shoe
No.
anywhere on the internet.
No. Not at all. Yeah, I mean, I remember my dad had like, if there was a Jordan 3 or an 11, my dad had it.
Was he a big
Growing
sneaker guy?
Big sneaker guy.
So that's where it got passed down that way.
That's where it came from. My dad's a big sneaker guy. He's a big just like menswear like shoes guy.
Sure.
So yeah, that's where I get the sneaker fandom.
Is
from,
there
for
like
sure.
Because like I'm learning more about your parents, where your dad, and all due respect for your mom, your dad sounds like someone I would roll with, but like your mom sounds cool too. She likes tea, but like your dad is a no bullshit sneakerhead. Like I'm in.
Yeah.
But is there a battle almost like not like a battle for your soul, but kind of like two completely different. Like I don't know your parents very well, but like it seems like two completely different cultures.
Yeah, it's two people who should have never been married.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You didn't say it.
I want to be clear. Listen,
because it's
like what is that experience like when you have these two very different cultures?
Yeah, it's a crazy pull, and it manifested itself in like interesting ways. So like because I grew up in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the only black people that were like around on a regular basis were my brother and my dad in the community. But my dad always had my dad had a lot of other like black men who just like didn't live in our neighborhood.
Sure.
That would like come around and be around. So like I grew up around I grew up in black culture as much as one can in the environments that I grew up in. And then when I moved when I moved back to the Bay Area in high school, and it's just a diverse place in general, it was like, okay, like this makes a lot more sense for me, as opposed to like the outskirts of Pittsburgh or whatever. But yeah, so I had that influence, and like my dad driving us into the city to get our hair cut and stuff like that.
Oh, because he didn't want any of those suburban.
Yeah, didn't
haircuts.
want these Karens touching her hair. And then my brother got the Corbin Blue hair in middle school, and it was like, well, the white people have to touch his hair because they know how to do this the best.
I mean, I know exactly what haircut you're talking about.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine your dad was thrilled with that.
No, oh my God, there was one time my brother and my dad got in a huge fight because my brother straightened his hair because he wanted to see what it would look like.
Well, if you just wanted to see what it looked like, I actually don't have any beef with that.
And it turned into like a whole thing of like you were trying to like erase your black. It was bad.
See, that's a kind of conversation where I would be, if I am, the kid of two different race parents. Like
Mhm.
it's a lot for a kid to shoulder to have one of their parents be like, "You're trying to erase your culture."
Yeah.
I just want to see what my hair was going to look like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. So that's the pull of it, right? And then like my dad's family wasn't around a lot. My dad,
Are they not from that area?
They just not. It's just a healthy barrier put between them for one reason or another. On the flip side, growing up, I was around my mom's extended family all the time until I was probably like 7 or 8, and then it was just like a particular set of cousins. But those cousins were around 4 times a year. We were getting together and stuff.
That's a lot.
So yeah, I had like this very Irish American East Coast influence around all the time. So yeah, you kind of you have the internal pull inside of the house, but I think what forms the identity is what happens outside of it. And when you grow up in the suburbs, it's, oh, your dad's black. Sorry, buddy, you're black, and we don't like you. That's what it was.
Was that actually the vibe?
Oh, 100%, dude. It was like I literally got told on the playground my like second week of school in Washington State, you can't come play with us because you're black. And it was like the kids were like, we don't like you because you're black. And then they were like, our parents don't want you around. Like, you can't come over because you're black. This is in like 2004.
How old are you at this point?
10, 11.
How does it... maybe I might be wrong. I don't know that a 10 or 11-year-old can even understand. Like, if I'm 10 or 11 and someone says to me, I'd be thinking like, but why do you not want to play with me?
Well, luckily it was something that my dad prepared us for, because he saw the environment that we were kind of bringing us up in. He's like, hey, so there's this thing called racism, and it kind of fucking sucks.
I hope he said it like a slide joke. Listen, there's thing about racism.
But the kids gotta just like dropping us off at school for say, by the way, you're black and people aren't gonna like that. Have a good day.
Kids are racist. I packed your lunch.
Have a good one. What does that mean? You'll find out.
Yeah.
In about 20 minutes. Yeah. So we had the knowledge of it, and like it had come out in other ways when I was younger. Not as aggressive as that. But yeah, you just get treated differently, and like the lighting I'm sure isn't doing me any favors. People are like, who is this fucking white man proclaiming?
I didn't know what you meant. I was like, I think it's good lighting.
People are like, why is Rachel Dolezal's brother on Josh's podcast right now? But like as a kid. As a kid, it was I grew out the hair hoping it made me look blacker. Now I just look like a piece of broccoli when I wear green. But
oh my god, you're killing me.
Yeah,
okay.
I looked much more biracial when I was younger.
Interesting. Is that something that as you got older, you that was a disappointment that you started to, I guess.
I'm white.
Yeah. Listen,
No.
we had Chip Nicholson on here who goes, listen, white people don't have culture, and I was like, seconded.
Yeah. No. So it was very interesting growing into an adult and like kind of being my own person outside of my family, right? Because yeah, like I said, I looked a lot more mixed growing up. I was around my dad. My dad, coached our basketball teams and stuff like so. It's like even if people didn't immediately clock it, it's like they see him, treating me like his son. So like, oh, that's that guy's kid.
Yeah.
So as I got older and was kind of just on my own, it kind of became interesting because growing up there was an overt emphasis on the fact that I'm half black.
Okay.
It's like you're a black from my dad and my mom, despite like obviously being very Irish and being very proud of that and wanting us to remember that, was always like, yeah, no, you're black. Like that's what people are going to first and foremost see and like potentially treat you in a certain way because of. So it was very interesting having that from both my family and like my outside influences, experiences, being seen as a black person. And then I become an adult and it kind of becomes the opposite, where people are like, you're not black because of the way you look.
People don't say you don't look black. People say you're not black.
I have people, not as much in person, but online on like social media and stuff.
Of course, I should have guessed that.
Yeah. But on the flip side, it's nice because I do get a lot of other mixed race people being like, thank you for like owning that, like the black part of you and being proud of it.
Yeah.
Because, and that's the interesting thing is that like, I feel like younger people have this thing of like, if you don't match like what I have in my head of like what other black people look like, you don't count to me. It's a lot because it's all younger people saying this to me. Anybody who is like my age or older, one drop rule, baby. We're all in this together. Like whether we like it or not, we're all hunkered down.
Oh my god.
So that's kind of the struggle. But yeah, it's a push and a pull, and it's interesting. But like I always, I don't really say like in my day to day, I don't go, I am biracial. I say I'm half black. Like that's.
Which is kinda, it's interesting that people feel the I'm not going to say need the they feel they have the authority to tell you
right.
what
Well,
you
because
are.
people have their experiences and they go, well, because you look a certain way, like there's no way you could have the same experiences as me. And to that I say, you're right to an extent. Like obviously, like I'm not walking around in like white spaces or like driving my car with a cop car behind me, like completely freaking out. Like
sure,
I could get yeeted unless I show, hey cop, here's a picture of my dad.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do every time I get pulled over.
Yeah. But that being said, that doesn't invalidate the experiences that I have had.
Not at all.
And that's what I try to explain to people. And some people are like amicable and willing to listen about that sort of thing. And again, this is just like online dumb shit. In person, I've never had somebody come up to me in person and be like, "You're not black. Why would you?" Unless it's like plenty of times white comics have like gone on stage after me, be like, "If he's black, I'm black," and it's like, good one, buddy.
I'm guessing I know a very specific comedy club where I'm guessing that's happened a bunch. But I guess the other side of things, and and maybe and the answer may be like definitely not, because you maybe are not the image of what someone has as a mixed race person. Have you accidentally had a front row seat for some crazy racist shit?
Oh, you bet your sweet ass.
I don't want to bet my sweet ass.
You're cashing in right now, baby.
Here.
So the one that always comes to mind with that was I was at a basketball camp, and it was for it was like a University of Pittsburgh thing that they put on for like middle school.
Oh, this was like a really good.
Yeah, it was cool. Very funnily. So they had like, they broke us all out into teams, and like we all played each other, and then there was like a little playoff tournament for the top 4 teams. My team comes in second.
Okay.
Then there were 3 individual like challenges. One of them was like shooting around the basket.
It was like an NBA All-Star.
Yeah,
weekend.
it was like an NBA All-Star weekend.
This is awesome. Yeah,
I came in second in every single thing.
Are you serious?
I didn't. Yeah,
I would have rather come in like 6th in one and 1 in the other.
And the counselors were all Pitt basketball players, so it was like Sam Young, and like DeJuan Blair, and those guys, Aaron Gray. But so at this camp, my team was going to play this other team, and the team I was on, other than me, was all white kids, and the other team was mostly black kids.
So you were going to lose.
And so we did, in fact, lose.
Yep.
But one kid came up to me and was like, "Hey, let's go show those N-words who's boss."
No. How old? Wait, what age is this?
12.
Oh my God.
People don't realize, dude, it's like like you got Philly, where there's no such thing as race because people don't see color because they only see red because they're mad all the time.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, huh?
No,
okay.
No, everyone's just so angry that racism is just, it's like, yeah, of course we're racist. We're mad.
Yeah, they all sound like Bill Burr over there.
So people love to say Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Alabama in between. It's more like you have Philadelphia over here, and the rest of it is all lives matter.
Oh my God! My!
Pittsburgh votes Democratic, like the city itself,
but it's every single person outside of that core.
Yeah, you get outside of the city limits, and it gets wild, man. So I got in like it wasn't like a full blown fist fight, but like I shoved the kid, and then like one of the counselors like grabbed me and was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "He said the N-word," and they're like, "Oh," because they the people who know. Sam Young knew I was black.
Yeah.
My nickname was Tayshaun Prince during the camp. When I was a kid, I looked pretty much exactly. I looked like a cross between Tayshaun Prince and Channing Frye.
I gotta say, so this makes me so sad for anyone who's listening and doesn't know what Tayshaun Prince looks like. You really got to go look it up because like I get it. You don't really look like Tayshaun Prince anymore.
Not anymore, but yeah, it was a very specific looking dude.
Also an elite defender. But yeah, go ahead.
Incredible. But yeah, so that's just one of the many examples.
There
of
are
like
many.
Just being I mean, just people saying some outlandish shit. When I was in college, I remember went to like an open mic, and someone like was like trying stand up for the first time. That like I had like he was like, "Oh, like I want to do Laughology." He's like, "Oh, that's great, man." Like, da da da. And I guess he just didn't, at that point, it really wasn't talking about being biracial because I was so new to it. And yeah, and he just told like one of the most heinous racist jokes, just like it was something extremely racist. I can't really recall it now. And
I don't think any of us are really missing out.
Yeah, right. And it's like, and I was like, dude, like that. I just like said, like, dog, like that's fucked up. Like I just like don't appreciate that shit. He's like, why do you care? And it's like, because I'm black, asshole.
But what drives me crazy about that interaction is like you don't have to be black to not want to hear this guy spew
and that's
racist
what makes
shit.
And that's what makes it annoying too, right? Is like someone says something racist, and then it's like we're all just gonna wait for me to pop off on this guy.
Yeah, it's not your. That's the interesting thing, and I think. Not to get too heady, but like going back to what everything that happened in 2020 with George Floyd and and all of that. Like,
sorry, who?
Yeah. Sorry, my bad. Let me white-splain it to you. But it's interesting that like that until 2020, it was like everyone just was fine with the idea that the onus of standing up against that. Well, let's just find the one black person in the room
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do
No,
this.
exactly, right? Yeah, it's like
It's ridiculous.
no, I mean, and on that front, sitting in history class and having to like explain the civil rights movement to kids in like 4th grade because teacher's like, "Hey, Matt, you can talk about this," and it's like,
No,
"Can I?"
the teacher did not do that.
Literally, there was one time it was like, "Matt," the teacher's like, "Matt, do you want to take this one over for a little bit?" I'm
No.
like, yeah, I know who Martin Luther King is, but like, I haven't read the biography of Malcolm X yet, buddy. Like,
Yeah,
wait.
which I've heard is a page turner.
Yeah, wait until I'm 18. Jesus Christ.
I can't imagine. Yeah, 4th grade teacher being like, "So, Matt
Yeah.
knew Rosa Parks,
Oh,
Matt."
yeah, exactly. Is he in your family? This is a great one. So I remember one. This was kindergarten. My dad comes to pick me up from school. It's around the holidays, and the teacher is like, "Oh, Mr. Duckett, could you and Matt bring in a zucchini bread next week?"
Zucchini.
And my dad was like, "Why do you need us to bring in zucchini bread?" And they're like, "For the holiday party." And my dad was like, my dad thought it was like a white thing. He was like,
Well, what is it?
Yeah, he was like, "What zucchini? What like what is that like a Polish thing? I don't know. Like where's the zucchinis?" And she's like, "Oh, because we needed something for the Kwanzaa part."
Are you kidding me? First off, there's so many questions I have based on that, but the biggest one is, I don't even think I've had zucchini bread. What the hell is it? And why is it associated with Kwanzaa?
Since then, I've had zucchini bread.
Is it good?
It's decent.
What
There's
is
not
it?
a lot because zucchini is like mostly water, so like you get like a small accent of it, but it's not like yeah.
Okay. But why
It's
is
like,
that?
just make regular bread? So I think I can't verify if it's actually part of Kwanzaa.
I think this woman was just like throwing
yeah,
things
yeah,
out
yeah.
there. Yeah.
The concept of Kwanzaa is related to harvest, and
Got
I
it.
do think that zucchinis grow naturally in certain parts of Africa.
I hope that your dad. Here's the challenge with this.
The exact words that my dad said was, "Nobody in this damn house celebrates Kwanzaa."
Your dad is a legend.
Yeah, he was.
When are we
like-
having him on this
Yeah,
podcast?
you got to get Dwayne. My dad should have been a comic. He has so many great stories, and he's such a funny guy. He's been arrested on suspicion of terrorism before. That's a great story.
How are you? We're coming to the end of this episode, and you drop gingerly that your dad was arrested on suspicion of terrorism.
Yeah. In Rome in the 80s.
What is happening right now? This is the weirdest episode we've had in so long. The number of things you've dropped into this conversation.
There's some there's so much. I haven't even gotten into finding out that I had a half sister when I was 22.
When you were 22?
Yeah.
That is very late in the game.
Yeah, that I came out law school dropout, divorce time. I had a fucking triple threat, baby.
Did it come out, and I swear, I know we don't have time to get it. I'm like dying to know this. I just have to ask, was it one of those things, because I have two different friends that had this, one of those things where they do these like 23andMe things or stuff like that, and crazy shit pops
It was
up.
not that. So I had very vague memories of my sister living with us when I was like really little. And then my mom told me like, "I'm divorcing your father, like leave me." And I was like, "Yeah, I totally support that. Also, I'm dropping out of school."
Yeah. You're like, I support that cloud cover because here's what's really going on.
Here's the real deal. And I was like, "Hey, by the way, I have this vague memory of like a 13, 14-year-old girl living with us when I was like 4 or 5. Who was that?" And my mom just immediately breaks down in tears, hysterically crying. And I was like, "Oh shit, sister!"
You just randomly, that crossed your mind in that moment, and you're like, "This is as good a time as any."
I had thought about it, and the person I was dating at the time was like, "There was someone who lived in your house, and you don't know who they were. You should ask your parents about that." I was like, "Yeah, I'll get to it."
How old? You said you have a brother, right?
Yeah, so I have a brother who's a year older.
Okay, so did you go to him and be like, because I would have gone to my sister.
He didn't really remember.
What?
Which
and
is
he
weird.
was older.
Yeah, he didn't really remember. But yeah, so
he was gaslighting you, dude.
Yeah, I know, right? He
he knew the whole time.
Yeah. But yeah, so my mom was like, "Okay." So my mom was like, "I was married before your father.
Yeah.
I had a kid who's your sister Teresa. Hi, Teresa. Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to the pod, Teresa.
Welcome to the pod, Teresa. But yeah, so yeah, some family stuff happened. She ended up not living with us.
Sure.
And yeah, my like parents just like didn't tell me about her.
It is crazy to me. Listen, I don't know how to parent, so I'm not going to pass judgment on
Neither
any
did my parents.
Oh,
Clearly.
yeah, I was going to say, listen, my parents really were just throwing darts at a board.
Yeah, really, the only thing they got right is like, be proud of your heritage.
Which is a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, my parents were like, hey, don't give up.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like,
Yeah.
honestly, given that I do in comedy, you probably should have encouraged the opposite.
Yeah,
but I find it interesting that your parents were like, well, maybe how long can we keep this ruse going?
Yeah, because they're like, they probably don't fucking.
Yeah.
These kids are like 4. They're stupid.
Yeah. I mean, most 4-year-olds are not necessarily the sharpest.
It's like these
you know?
dumbasses can barely work Donkey Kong Country. They're not going to remember
Okay,
family.
that was an incredibly hard game, and when you think you won and you get to the end, there's a whole other boss to
King
beat.
Cave Rule comes out and fucks your shit up.
It's true.
Great game.
Yeah, me and my sisters play. Speaking of sisters, listen, I want to hear all about that, but I know we're running up on time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, let's do it.
So the lightning round is 5 fast questions. They do not have to be fast answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I put them on an index card because it's my only opportunity to be a late night talk show host.
Okay. Got question 1, black from the waist down, white from the credit score up.
I've laughed harder in this episode than I have in a lot. That is an incredible joke. Question 1, what is a favorite ritual of yours? So like mine is brewing tea.
This one is like kind of a weirdly specific thing.
We love it. That's what we're here for.
When I used to drive home to the Bay Area from UC Santa Barbara for college, for vacations. Every time I would listen to Zooropa, which is a U2 album from 1993.
What's interesting is I know you love U2.
Yes.
And I don't know that everyone knows that about you, but I know that
I'm going
to
the Sphere this Saturday.
Oh, of course you are.
Yep. With my mommy. Guess which one's white?
Question 2, what is a running bit you have with a friend or partner that makes you laugh?
So something I was just thinking about actually the other day. So my brother and I, for some reason, whenever we're watching football and someone drops a pass, we do the Swedish Chef from the Muppets. Because, he's like tossing the knives. So sometimes when the guy's like juggling, so like a guy would drop a ball and we go, hooty bird,
That's good. That's a great one.
That's a good one.
That's funny.
Yeah. My girlfriend and I have 1,000. Some of them are so batshit insane. I'm like, I can't say that on
I was
a
going to
podcast.
say, I mean, you could say anything you want, but she might want you to keep it on the kosher side here.
A recurring bit that we do have is I don't know where it came from, but like one time she was doing something and I just very like sarcastically, like as an old man, just went, sometime today. And so we do that to each other all the time when someone is taking a minute. That's a fun one. Those are 2. There's, like I said, 1,000, and I'm kind of brain freezing because I'm like, I know there's something that Grace is going to be like, why didn't she say that obvious one that we do all the time? I'm like, hey, it's a lightning round.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a lightning round.
Yeah.
Question 3, what is your most controversial take?
My most controversial take, everyone should have been thankful that they got that U2 album on their phone.
Yeah, okay. If that's what you want to run with, we'll take that.
First half is overproduced. The second half of that album is really great. The hot take, the true hot take, is that U2 is not objectively because it's a take. In my opinion, U2 is the second greatest rock and roll band of all time behind the Beatles.
That is, and my response is not arguing your take, because I have not given that enough thought, but that is definitely a take.
1987 to 2011, they were the biggest rock band on planet Earth. Yes, Nirvana was around. Yes, Coldplay had their moments, but no other band has been in at the very least in the conversation of we're the best band on the planet for that long. Awards are made up, but they do have the most Grammys out of any rock band.
Okay.
At the time, when it ended in 2011, they had the highest grossing tour of all time with the 360 tour, which was 2009 through 2011. And yeah, I mean, for people that are like, just know U2 from the phone thing or just like Bono as he is now, go listen to the mid 80s albums. Listen to War, listen to The Unforgettable Fire. Mind blowing, incredible lyricism. And if you want to talk about influence, I mean, Coldplay, Muse, The Killers, all derivative, Arcade Fire, all extremely derivative of U2 and the biggest, and in their generation, the biggest rock bands.
I mean, apparently Mr. Brightside was about Bono himself.
that's what they say. But yeah, that's my hot take.
Okay, I love that. Question
U2
4.
number 2.
Question 4, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, is there one moment that really sticks out for you?
I mean, I'll say like this past weekend, because like I just like wasn't really getting booked on a lot of stuff up here
Mm.
for this past month, and so I was like, okay, you're gonna go down to San Diego and do a feature set. I'm like, am I a feature? It's like, well, I can't. Like, I'm fighting for my life to get like a 7-minute setup here. Like, maybe I'm not as good as this as I thought I am. And this past weekend went great. I had an awesome time, and the set was really good, and it's something that I'm looking forward to sending out places to do it more. Definitely playing in travel basketball. There was like, I'm like, I'm not as good as these people. But sometimes it's like, when you're part of a team, it's easier because it's like, all right, well, maybe I'm not as good at this guy, but I know that I am like the best 3-point shooter on this court. So
Sure.
I'm gonna shoot the lights out or whatever. So yeah, it's just like, I don't know how you like eliminate imposter syndrome, but I think for me, whenever I have feelings of anxiety or whatever, imposter syndrome, it's just, this is just me really giving a shit about this.
Which I think is
I just
the
care.
right way.
Yeah, I just care a bunch. So okay, I care about this, so I need to try really hard.
I love that. That's a
Yeah.
phenomenal framing of that.
Yeah.
My final question for you
Mhm.
is, what is your favorite tea? And if you don't necessarily have a favorite tea, what is your favorite comfort?
Yeah, I can't really say like a favorite tea. I mean, like, growing up, whenever I was sick, it was like a Bailey's black tea or whatever, because that's what my mom loved.
Sure.
My favorite comfort, listen, me and Joe Biden don't have a lot in common.
Oh,
But if there's something that I agree with him, is that ice cream is the undisputed GOAT dessert.
Okay, so you and I are right on the level here.
Yeah.
Matt, that's the pod. How do you feel, man?
Oh man, this was a pleasure, man. It's great seeing you, because it has been
Too long.
way too long. Lovely home, lovely tea,
Stop. I keep
lovely
going.
questions.
We love
Yeah,
it.
no, it's been a blast. This is a great couch too. I'm very jealous.
Listeners, you heard it from Matt. He loves the couch. Thank you for coming, man. You're welcome anytime.
Hey, thank you for having me.
That was Matt Duckett. You can find him on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at mduckettcomedy. Steep Conversations is produced and edited by Elliot G.B. Our associate editor is Martin Alvarez. Our theme song and additional music are by Oliver Hymack. Our cover art was done by Neil Fraser with photography by Matt Mazisco. Social media by Dia Villegas. Please write a review and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can. You can send any questions, comments, newly friend game suggestions, or tea suggestions to steepcombos@gmail.com or tweet us at steepcombos. I'm Josh Lanzette, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Josh Lanzette. We'll be back next week, so until then, happy steeping.
I don't do it as much anymore, but I really do like making myself an old fashioned at night.
Do you actually muddle the sugar cubes, really get in the mix there?
I'm not much of a sugar muddler these days. Yeah, sugar muddler.
I didn't want to tell you this. We've all been saying that behind your back.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, Matt, he muddles the sugar.